The Christmas tree in my brother's living room touched the 12-foot ceiling. Real pine, professionally decorated with gold and crystal ornaments that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Everything in Marcus's Westchester home screamed success. The custom furniture, the imported marble floors, the original artwork on the walls. I sat on his $15,000 Italian leather sofa, wearing a sweater from Target and jeans I'd owned for 3 years. "So, little brother," Marcus said, handing me a glass of wine that I knew cost at least $200 per bottle. "Still playing entrepreneur? Or have you finally gotten a real job?" The question was casual, almost friendly. But I'd known Marcus for 31 years. I was 31, he was 35, and I could hear the condescension underneath. "Still working on my projects," I said simply. His wife, Jennifer, joined us with a tray of hors d'oeuvres prepared by their personal chef. "Marcus mentioned you're doing some kind of consulting?" "That's nice, Ethan. Very flexible." "It's not consulting," Marcus corrected, his tone making it clear he found my work amusing. "Ethan calls himself a venture capital investor, which is a fancy way of saying he plays with apps on his laptop and occasionally convinces people to give him money." "It's a bit more involved than that," I said mildly. "Is it though?" Marcus settled into his chair, clearly warming to his topic. "Our parents would arrive soon for Christmas dinner, along with our sister Rachel and her family. But for now it was just the 3 of us, and Marcus never missed an opportunity to establish the pecking order. Because from what I can see, you live in a studio apartment in Brooklyn, drive a 10-year-old Honda, and spend most of your time at coffee shops with your laptop." "That's accurate," I acknowledged. "Meanwhile, I'm CEO of a company worth $800 million. We employ 450 people. We have real offices in 6 cities. We're generating $200 million in annual revenue. That's what real business looks like." Jennifer squeezed his shoulder proudly. "Marcus has worked so hard building Apex Solutions. The board just approved his new compensation package, $2 million base salary plus equity." "Congratulations," I said and meant it. Marcus had built something impressive. Apex Solutions was a cybersecurity firm specializing in enterprise software. He'd founded it 7 years ago, straight out of his Harvard MBA program. The company had grown rapidly, raising capital through multiple funding rounds and establishing itself as an industry leader. What Marcus didn't know, what no one in my family knew, was that I'd been funding his success since the beginning. "You could have a real job too," Marcus continued. "I've told you before, I could get you something at Apex. Maybe in operations or customer support. Entry level, obviously. You'd have to work your way up. But it would be steady income, benefits, a career path." "That's generous," I said. "I'm serious, Ethan. You're 31 years old. How long are you going to keep doing this startup fantasy thing? You need stability. A 401k. Health insurance that doesn't come from the ACA marketplace." The doorbell rang. Our parents arrived, followed shortly by Rachel, her husband Tom, and their 2 kids. The house filled with the chaos of family, coats being hung, presents being arranged under the tree, children running through rooms they'd been told to stay out of. Dinner was served in Marcus's formal dining room. A table that seated 14, set with china that Jennifer mentioned had been a wedding gift from Marcus's mentor. Prime rib, roasted vegetables, 3 kinds of potatoes, wine that Marcus selected from his temperature-controlled cellar. "A toast," our father announced, raising his glass. "To Marcus for another extraordinary year. Apex Solutions continues to exceed every expectation. We're so proud of what you've built." Everyone raised their glasses. I joined them. "And to Ethan," my mother added diplomatically, "who continues to pursue his passions." The difference in tone was subtle but unmistakable. Marcus had built something. I was pursuing passions. "Speaking of which," Rachel said, turning to me with well-meaning curiosity, "how is your investing thing going? Are you making any money?" "It's going well," I said. "But like actual money?" her husband Tom pressed. "Or is it more of a hobby?" Marcus answered before I could. "Ethan's very private about his finances. Which usually means there's not much to discuss. But that's fine. Not everyone can be a business owner. The world needs people in all kinds of roles." "I am a business owner," I said quietly. "Of what exactly?" Marcus's smile was patronizing. "Do you have employees? An office? Actual revenue?" Or are you calling yourself a business owner because you filed an LLC and made a website? I could have answered. Could have explained that I managed a portfolio worth $920 million. Could have detailed my ownership stakes in 43 companies across various industries. Could have mentioned that I'd exited 7 companies in the past decade, generating over $400 million in personal returns. Instead, I said, I have investments in several companies. Right. Investments. Marcus made air quotes. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm trying to help you see reality. Real investing requires capital. Significant capital. You'd need millions, tens of millions, to be a serious venture capital player. And unless you're hiding a trust fund I don't know about. He left the sentence hanging, inviting everyone to laugh at the absurdity. They did. What Marcus is trying to say, Jennifer interjected gently, is that we worry about you. We all do. You're so smart, Ethan. You could do something really meaningful with your life if you just commit to a traditional career path. The conversation moved on. Marcus told stories about Apex Solutions, their latest client acquisition, their expansion plans, their preparation for an eventual IPO. Everyone listened with rapt attention, asking questions, offering congratulations. When I mentioned that one of my portfolio companies had just been acquired by Google, Marcus barely acknowledged it. That's nice, he said dismissively. Though I have to say, selling to Google usually means the founders couldn't make it on their own. Real companies stay independent. After dinner, while everyone gathered in the living room for presents, I stepped outside onto Marcus's back deck. The December air was cold, but I needed the space. I pulled out my phone and opened my investment management app, the one connected to my primary account at Kingsley Capital Management. The dashboard loaded, showing my current holdings. Kingsley Capital Management Portfolio Manager. Ethan Michael Reynolds. Total assets under management. $920,447,221. I scrolled to my largest position. Apex Solutions. Apex Solutions Incorporated investment across 6 entities. $304,700,000 ownership percentage. 52.3% status. Majority stakeholder. I'd started investing in Marcus's company 7 years ago, during his seed round. He'd been desperately seeking capital, pitching to dozens of VCs, most of whom had passed. The cybersecurity market was crowded, and Marcus was an unproven first-time founder with a Harvard pedigree but no real track record. I'd believed in him though. In his vision, his work ethic, his technical knowledge. So I'd invested $12 million through my first investment vehicle, Aurora Holdings LLC. I was 24 years old, managing capital from my second startup exit. As Apex Solutions grew and raised subsequent funding rounds, I'd continued investing. Series A, $45 million through Summit Ventures LP. Series B, $89 million through Cascade Capital Partners. Series C, $98 million through Redwood Equity Group. Series D, $42 million through Phoenix Investment Holdings. And finally, a private placement last year, $18.7 million through Zenith Capital Management. Total, $304.7 million invested across 6 carefully structured entities, all managed through Kingsley Capital, all with beneficial ownership traced back to me. Marcus had no idea that his annoying younger brother, the one who played entrepreneur and needed to get a real job, owned 52.3% of his company. I called Arthur Kingsley, my portfolio manager and the founding partner of Kingsley Capital Management. He answered immediately. Ethan, Merry Christmas. What can I do for you? I need to liquidate my Apex Solutions position. All 6 entities. Complete withdrawal. There was a long pause. That's $304.7 million across your entire holding. May I ask what precipitated this decision? Family dynamics. I see. Arthur's voice was careful. You understand the implications? Apex Solutions is preparing for an IPO in Q2. Your position could easily be worth $500 million or more post-IPO. You'd be walking away from at least $200 million in unrealized gains. I understand. And the disclosure requirements. As majority stakeholder, your liquidation requires immediate SEC notification. The board will be informed within the hour. Your identity will be revealed. That's fine. Ethan, I've managed your portfolio for 8 years. This is your anchor investment. Your brother's company. Are you absolutely certain this is what you want? I looked through the glass doors at my family gathered around the Christmas tree. Marcus was holding court, telling another story about his business acumen. Everyone was laughing, admiring, celebrating his success. Success I'd funded. Execute the sale, I said. All 6 entities. Immediately. Understood. I'll begin the process now. The first notifications should go out within 30 minutes. He paused. For what it's worth, Ethan. I'm sorry it came to this. I ended the call and texted my lawyer, David Chin. Ethan. Liquidating full Apex Solutions position. We'll need disclosure documents showing beneficial ownership across all entities. David. I've maintained those records per your standing instructions. I can have everything compiled in 20 minutes. You're sure about this? Ethan. Yes. David. Marcus is going to lose his mind when he sees who his majority stakeholder has been. Ethan. I'm aware. David. Stand by. Documents coming shortly. I remained on the deck watching my breath mist in the cold air. My phone began buzzing with notifications. Arthur. Aurora Holdings liquidation initiated. $12 million processing. Arthur. Summit Ventures LP sale confirmed. $45 million transferred. Arthur. Cascade Capital Partners liquidation executing. $89 million processing. Through the glass doors I saw Marcus reach for his phone. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and stood up abruptly. He walked toward the study, phone pressed to his ear. Arthur. Redwood Equity Group liquidation complete. $98 million transferred. Arthur. Phoenix Investment Holdings sale confirmed. $42 million processing. Jennifer joined Marcus in the study. Through the glass, I could see her expression change from confused to shocked. Arthur. Zenith Capital Management final liquidation complete. $18.7 million transferred. Total withdrawal $304.7 million. 0 remaining equity in Apex Solutions. The study door burst open. Marcus strode out, his face completely drained of color. He was holding his phone like it was a live grenade. Everyone needs to leave, he announced. Family emergency. I'm sorry, but we need the house cleared. Now. Marcus, what's wrong? Our mother asked, standing quickly. Just go. Please. I'll explain later. Rachel gathered her confused children. Tom helped our parents with their coats. Within 5 minutes, the house was empty except for Marcus, Jennifer, and me. I came in from the deck. Marcus was staring at his phone, scrolling through what I assumed were notifications from his board of directors. His hand was shaking. What the hell is happening? Jennifer asked. Marcus, you're scaring me. He looked up at me. Did you know about this? About what? I asked calmly. Someone just liquidated 52% of Apex Solutions. Every single share. $304.7 million. Gone. Just gone. His voice was climbing in pitch. The board is freaking out. Our IPO underwriters are demanding emergency calls. This is catastrophic. That sounds serious, I said. Serious? Serious. Marcus's voice cracked. This doesn't just affect the IPO. This affects everything. If our majority stakeholder has lost confidence, every other investor will panic. The company valuation will collapse. We could lose everything. Jennifer was reading something on her own phone. It says here the liquidation was across 6 different entities. Aurora Holdings, Summit Ventures, Cascade Capital, Redwood Equity, Phoenix Investment, and Zenith Capital. All managed by. She paused, her eyes widening. Kingsley Capital Management. I don't know what that means. Marcus shouted. I've never even heard of Kingsley Capital. These entities have been passive investors for years. They never asked for board seats, never interfered with operations, just provided capital whenever we needed it. And now they're all dumping their entire positions simultaneously. There must be a reason, Jennifer said. The disclosure filing says. Marcus scrolled frantically. The beneficial owner is required to be listed. It says the beneficial owner of all 6 entities is. He stopped reading, his face going from pale to green. Is what? Jennifer prompted. Marcus looked at me. Really looked at me. It says the beneficial owner is Ethan Michael Reynolds. The silence was absolute. Jennifer turned to me. That's you. That's your full name. Yes, I confirmed. But that would mean. She trailed off, unable to complete the thought. Marcus held up his phone, showing me the SEC disclosure document. This is a mistake, right? Some kind of filing error? Because this says you owned 52.3% of Apex Solutions. That you invested $304.7 million over 7 years. That you were my majority stakeholder. That's correct, I said. That's not possible. Marcus's voice was flat, defensive. You live in a studio apartment. You drive a Honda from 2014. You don't have that kind of money. I pulled out my own phone and opened the Kingsley Capital app. I connected it to Marcus's 85-inch television, the same way he'd been showing family photos earlier. The portfolio dashboard filled the screen. Kingsley Capital Management Portfolio Manager. Ethan Michael Reynolds. Total assets under management. $920,447,221. Recent transaction. Apex Solutions Incorporated complete liquidation. Aurora Holdings LC, $12 million sold. Summit Ventures LP, $45 million sold. Cascade Capital Partners, $89 million sold. Redwood Equity Group, $98 million sold. Phoenix Investment Holdings, $42 million sold. Zenith Capital Management, $18,700,000 sold. Total investment, $304,700,000 ownership, 52.3%, liquidated, status, complete, all positions sold. Marcus stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. You have $920 million? Give or take, I said. The cryptocurrency holdings fluctuate. Jennifer had collapsed onto the sofa. How is that possible? I've had 12 startup exits, I explained. Started when I was 22 with a mobile gaming company that Facebook acquired for $28 million. Built that while I was in college. Used the capital to fund more startups. Made angel investments, diversified into crypto early. Compounded returns over a decade. I pulled up my complete investment history. At 24, I exited a fintech platform to JP Morgan for $73 million. At 26, sold an AI company to IBM for $114 million. At 28, my machine learning startup was acquired by Microsoft for $167 million. Plus 7 smaller exits ranging from $8 million to $45 million. The television screen now showed my full portfolio, 43 active investments, 7 successful exits, positions in companies ranging from early-stage startups to late-stage pre-IPO firms. Marcus was shaking his head. This is fake. It has to be fake. Call Arthur Kingsley, I suggested, pulling up the contact. He'll confirm everything. Or call your board. They should have received the full disclosure documentation by now. As if on cue, Marcus's phone rang. He answered on speaker. Marcus, it's Robert. I recognized the voice of Robert Chong, Apex Solutions chairman of the board. We need to talk about the disclosure we just received. I'm looking at it now, Marcus said, his voice hollow. Then you know that Ethan Reynolds, your brother Ethan Reynolds, has been our majority stakeholder since the seed round? That's what it says. It's not just what it says. I've spent the last 20 minutes on the phone with Kingsley Capital Management and their legal team. Every document checks out. Ethan Reynolds invested $304.7 million in Apex Solutions across 7 years through 6 different investment vehicles. He owned 52.3% of the company. And he just liquidated everything. Marcus looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Why? Why what? Robert asked. Not you. I'm asking Ethan why. I gestured to the television screen still displaying my portfolio. Because the CEO of Apex Solutions told me I needed to get a real job. That I was playing entrepreneur. That my work was a fantasy. That I should get an entry-level position in customer support and work my way up. Robert's voice came through the speaker. Jesus Christ, Marcus. You said that to your majority stakeholder. I didn't know he was my majority stakeholder. But you knew he was your brother, I said quietly. You knew I've been working in startups and investing for a decade. You knew I've had successful exits. You just never bothered to ask about the details. You assumed that because I live modestly and don't broadcast my wealth, I must be failing. Jennifer was reading something on her tablet. The stock price is dropping. It's down 28% in after-hours trading. Marcus grabbed her tablet. Oh my God. The news is everywhere. Apex Solutions loses majority stakeholder ahead of IPO. Mass liquidation raises questions about company stability. This is destroying us. Robert's voice continued through the phone. Marcus, the other investors are panicking. I've got 3 firms already requesting emergency meetings to discuss their positions. The IPO underwriters want to know if we can still go public with this level of instability in the cap table. Can we? Marcus asked desperately. I don't know. Maybe. But it's going to delay everything and our valuation will take a massive hit. Robert paused. We need to know why Ethan liquidated. Was it company performance? Market conditions? Loss of confidence in management? It was personal, I said, speaking loudly enough for the phone to pick up my voice. Ethan. Robert sounded surprised to hear me. Can you explain what precipitated this decision? Marcus has spent 7 years dismissing my career choices while I funded his, I said. Tonight at Christmas dinner he mocked my work, offered me an entry-level job at his company, and told me I needed to get a real job like the rest of the family. I decided I no longer wanted to invest in a company whose leadership operates with that value system. The phone was silent for a long moment. Then Robert spoke, his voice carefully controlled. Marcus, is that accurate? I didn't know, Marcus protested. If I'd known he was my investor. That's the problem, I interrupted. You treated me like I was worthless because you thought I was broke. Now that you know I have $920 million, suddenly my opinions matter? That's exactly the kind of leadership philosophy I don't want to support. We need to fix this, Robert said. Ethan, what would it take to reverse the liquidation? It's done, I said. The shares are sold. The capital is already being reallocated to other investments. We could structure a new investment, Robert suggested. Better terms. Board representation. Whatever you need. I don't need anything from Apex Solutions, I replied. What I needed was basic respect from my brother. But apparently that required a $304 million position disclosure. Marcus finally found his voice. You're going to destroy my company because your feelings were hurt? No, I corrected. I removed my investment from a company whose CEO demonstrated poor judgment in evaluating people and contributions. That's not emotion, that's portfolio management. This is insane. Marcus shouted. You can't just tank a company because of a family argument. I didn't tank your company, I said calmly. I liquidated my position. What happens next depends on how you and your board respond. If Apex Solutions is truly as strong as you claim, it will survive losing one investor. One investor? Marcus's voice cracked. You were 52% of the company. You were the majority stakeholder. The anchor investor. Without you, the entire shareholder structure collapses. My phone buzzed. Arthur. Stock down 34%. 3 institutional investors have announced liquidation. Total withdrawal from Apex. $97 million so far. I showed the notification to Marcus. He read it and made a sound like he'd been punched. This is a cascade. They're all pulling out because you pulled out. The company is going to collapse. Then maybe you should have thought about that before telling your majority stakeholder to get a real job, I said. Jennifer had been quiet throughout the exchange, but now she spoke up. Ethan, please. I know Marcus said hurtful things. He's always been competitive with you. But there are 450 employees at Apex Solutions. People with families, mortgages, kids in college. If the company fails, they all lose their jobs. Those employees deserve better leadership, I replied. Leadership that values competence over appearances. Leadership that doesn't mock people's career choices. Leadership that recognizes contribution regardless of its packaging. Robert was talking to someone in the background. He came back on the line. The board is requesting an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Ethan, will you attend? Even just to explain your position? I'm no longer a shareholder, I said. I have no reason to attend board meetings. As a courtesy then, please, give us a chance to understand what happened and how we can move forward. I looked at Marcus. His face was ashen, his earlier confidence completely shattered. The CEO of an $800 million company, my $800 million company, reduced to panic by a single phone call. "I'll think about it," I said. "But I'm not making any promises." I disconnected my phone from the television and headed toward the door. "Where are you going?" Marcus demanded. "Home. To my studio apartment in Brooklyn. The one you think is evidence of my failure." "Ethan, wait." "I've spent 7 years waiting," I interrupted. "Waiting for you to ask about my work. Waiting for you to show interest in my investments. Waiting for you to treat me like an equal instead of a charity case. I'm done waiting." Jennifer followed me to the door. "Please don't leave like this. Stay. Let's talk this through. Marcus will apologize." "Will he?" I asked. "Or will he apologize because he now knows I control his company's future?" There's a difference between genuine remorse and strategic contrition. I opened the door. Marcus appeared in the hallway, his phone ringing constantly. "The board is calling. Our counsel is calling. The IPO underwriters are calling. I have to deal with this. But Ethan, please, just tell me what you want." "I wanted a brother who respected me," I said simply. "Not for what I have but for who I am. But you couldn't give me that. So I'm removing my capital from your company and investing it somewhere else." "Where?" "Companies founded by people who were underestimated. People who were told to get real jobs. People who built something remarkable while being dismissed as failures." I paused in the doorway. "People like me." I left. My Honda, the 10-year-old car Marcus had mocked, started on the first try. I drove back to Brooklyn in silence, my phone buzzing constantly with calls from my family that I didn't answer. When I got home, I opened my laptop and reviewed Arthur's reallocation proposals. He'd already identified 8 companies that fit my criteria. Founders who'd been overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated. Companies building real value despite lacking traditional pedigrees or networks. I approved investments totaling $287 million across all 8. My phone rang. "David, my lawyer. The internet has exploded," he said. TechCrunch, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal. Everyone's covering the Apex Solutions story. The narrative is, disgruntled sibling destroys tech IPO. "That's fine," I said. "It's also bringing attention to your other investments. Several of your portfolio companies have issued statements supporting your decision. They're saying things like Ethan Reynolds judges companies by their merit, not their pedigree, and this is why we trust Reynolds Capital. Integrity over convenience." "Reynolds Capital?" I asked. "That's what they're calling you. Your portfolio companies, the media, everyone. You've essentially launched your own brand by taking this stance." My laptop showed multiple news alerts. Mystery investor behind multiple unicorns revealed after Apex Solutions exit. Ethan Reynolds, the quiet force behind dozens of successful startups. Self-made millionaire walks away from brother's company after years of mockery. Reynolds Capital, investment philosophy based on merit over credentials. Another call. This time from one of my successful exits, a CEO named Maria Santos who'd sold her company to Amazon for $240 million. "Ethan, I just saw the news. I wanted to call and say thank you." "For what?" "For being consistent. You invested in my company when every VC in Silicon Valley said I was too inexperienced, too young, didn't have the right background. You were the only one who looked at my product and my metrics instead of my resume. And now you're walking away from a company that treated you the same way. That's integrity." After we hung up, 6 more portfolio company founders called with similar messages. They'd all been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. They'd all received funding from me when traditional investors passed. And they were all publicly supporting my decision to liquidate Apex Solutions. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "The company valuation dropped 47%. The IPO is probably dead. I hope you're happy." I wasn't happy. But I wasn't sad either. I was free. Free from pretending my brother's mockery didn't hurt. Free from funding someone who saw me as a failure. Free from waiting for respect that would never come without a 9-figure disclosure. Another text, this time from my mother. "Please talk to your brother. He's devastated. The whole family is upset." I typed back. "The whole family spent Christmas listening to Marcus mock my career. Where was the upset then?" She didn't respond. At midnight, my portfolio showed the complete reallocation. $304.7 million liquidated from Apex Solutions, $287 million deployed to 8 new investments, $17.7 million held in reserve for upcoming opportunities. $0 in my brother's company. Zero obligation to fund someone who would never see me as anything more than the disappointing younger brother who needed to get a real job. My phone rang one final time. Marcus. I answered. I'm sorry, he said. His voice was hoarse, defeated. I was an asshole. I've always been an asshole to you. I know that. And I'm sorry. Okay. Is that all you're going to say? What do you want me to say, Marcus? That I accept your apology? That I'll reinvest? That we can go back to how things were? Yes. Any of that. All of that. I accept your apology, I said. But I'm not reinvesting. And we can't go back because how things were was me funding your success while you treated me like a failure. I don't want to go back to that. The company might not survive this. Then you'll build something else, I said. You're talented, Marcus. You really are. Apex Solutions is a good company. You're just a bad brother. That's not fair. You're right, I interrupted. It's not fair that I had to prove my worth with a $304 million investment before my own brother would take me seriously. But here we are. I ended the call. Outside my studio apartment window, Brooklyn was alive with Saturday night energy. People living their lives, chasing their dreams, building their futures. None of them knew that the guy in the modest apartment with the old Honda had just reshaped the tech investment landscape with a single liquidation. None of them needed to know. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so successful that walking away barely leaves a dent in your portfolio. It's proving that you never needed their approval in the first place. It's taking your $920 million and investing it in people who understand what it's like to be underestimated. My brother had built an $800 million company. I'd funded it. And now I'd freed myself from it. The family business would survive or collapse on its own merits. But I was done being the invisible foundation that no one acknowledged until it cracked.